G'day, Glenn here. Hey, we've been doing heaps of research on packaging and how we can get a sustainable solution. So, you know, we pretty much want to get rid of the plastic milk bottle, but there's a lot of advantages to plastic. One is very low carbon footprint to produce a plastic bottle, very cheap to produce. Problem is what happens after we've used them, and we all know that the recycling system doesn't really work. Most plastic milk bottles aren't recycled in New Zealand, and that's because you've got to rinse them. If they're not rinsed, they won't get recycled. If you leave the lid on, they won't get recycled, and if they get contaminated with a batch of plastic that isn't washed, well, then they all go to landfill. As a result, most of these aren't actually recycled. Glass. So glass is interesting. Glass is a natural product made from sand and limestone. Plastic's made from oil. So glass can also be infinitely recycled, so you can just keep recycling it. The problem is our recycling system doesn't work that well in New Zealand. The other problem with glass is that it requires a huge amount of heat to produce a glass bottle. 1600 degrees to melt glass. That requires a lot of coal. As a result, the glass milk bottle has a carbon footprint about 5 to 10 times more than a plastic bottle. So if you use recyclable glass, that drops by about 40%, but it's still much higher than plastic. So a single-use glass bottle, whether it's a beer bottle or a soft drink bottle or whatever, is probably the least environmentally sustainable form of packaging, because it's used once. You have all that heat, all that CO2 to create it, gets used once, and then goes into recycling again. Then gets transported all around to the recycling plant, heated up to 1600 degrees again, where it's probably fine. You know, probably doesn't have chips or anything in it, could be used again, but it seems it's more economic to do it that way. But from an environmental perspective, it's not. So that's why we like the reusable glass bottle. So if you've got a milk bottle and use it 5 times, it then has the same carbon footprint as a plastic bottle, give or take. If you use it 10 times, well, it's even less. And in the US, they found that on average a reusable glass milk bottle gets reused about 50 times. And I know in our experience we've got bottles that have been used up to about 200 times. So that's why we want to do the reusable glass bottle, because although it costs way more to produce and it's much higher carbon footprint, the fact that you use it again and again and again drops it every single time you use it. Now we're also looking at compostable plastic, and that's good. And the problem with that is that when you're at home, people don't know they've got a compostable plastic or a normal plastic, and they don't look at the label, and if they put it in the recycling bin, it just goes to the normal plastic recycling places and it won't get recycled, and it'll go to landfill. If you do separate it, the problem is there's no one, I can't find anyone who is able to compost this compostable plastic at a commercial scale. And that's because it's actually quite hard to do. Although it is theoretically compostable, to actually set up a compost heap at a commercial scale that works every time is quite complicated. So, no easy answers when it comes to packaging. Reusable is what we think is best. Plastic would be great if it actually got recycled. So we're also looking at options around maybe taking back plastic bottles ourselves and making sure they're recycled. But that's where we're at the moment. We'll keep you updated. Cheers.